I just wanted to start this next part of the IELTS tips that I have for you. I didn't think that I would film for so long. It would have been like an hour vlog. So I just decided to divide them. But since there is no formal intro to the second part, I just wanted to say that this is my second part. So here I will be talking about speaking and writing, something that I figured out by myself that I necessarily didn't know, or I want to like warn you about because I made those mistakes. So it will basically be my experience and my real exam, and then I will like talk around it and just explain how it went for me. So, and then at the end I will give some extra tips and just say the most important things about IELTS exam, and hopefully it will help you at least a little bit. So let's go and let's start with the writing part. If you're a lucky person and you have some poetry in yourself or you like writing, I'm definitely not the person that likes to write, and as you've seen by my vlogs, that was literally the last thing that I practiced, which is probably also the reason why I mean, I got 7, but honestly, I think I could have gotten much more, at least a little bit more, if I only actually prepared, because I didn't. Like, I didn't even check on either like Google or like also YouTube tips for writing exam. I didn't even check how the structure should be, what are the connecting words. Like, I didn't do anything, which was a mistake on my part, so please don't do it. Like, first thing you do, look at the structure, like Google how it's supposed to look, like, because you have to have an intro, pros, cons, and definitely reading some samples, seeing what they're using, how long it is, and how are they, like, as I keep saying, structuring the whole paragraph, the connecting words, and comparison language. Those are important. That can help you a lot, because as I said, and I think it's more on a lot of other these practicing websites, you cannot really check your writing only once on the British Council, but any other time you cannot. So I think if you write it and maybe copy, you get the topic, you write it there, you copy what you wrote, you put it into, I'm using ChatGPT, but maybe you have some other AI apps, and you put it in. And maybe we can try and say, if I was on IELTS exam, what scoreboard I would get, or like what score I would get, and like explain to me why. And if it gives you like B1, B2, or nothing like what you need to get, write to the AI and say, can you give me an example of how that whole paragraph would look if it was written on C1 level, like using those words, and maybe like to show you how to enhance that paragraph and like how to switch some words. So I think that would be a good thing, just so you can see for maybe like everyday words that are you using. Maybe you can just like switch them. For example, as I said now, comprehend or understand, enhance or to make it better, decline or say no. You know, it's so easy to, oh, I said yes, but you can say I accepted, or I said no, you can say I declined. So that you think there is not a lot of difference, but they actually are checking those words, which I didn't do. I can actually give you an example, because I googled and like just wrote, literally give me some of examples how to start a sentence. It is widely believed that, like, who would start a conversation like that? But when you do those things, that's how you need to write them. Or however, others argue that, for example, in conclusion, those are like more typical ones. And now the things that they say to avoid is nowadays. That is the first thing that I use probably like 3 or 4 times in my writing exam. So that was like, okay, that was a big mistake. In the modern world, I use that, like from word to word, I use that in my sentence, but it was mostly because that was kind of my topic. My topic was why are families nowadays starting family later? So I used in the modern world, and then the casual ones like firstly, secondly, thirdly. Those are like too easy, so that's why I don't use them. And to conclude. But, as I said, you can also research those ones for yourself. What I would say from my exam, first task for writing female and male, like gender-wise, there was a university and there was a paragraph, like a chart table of the classes, so which ones were more occupied by females, which ones were more occupied by men, and I basically had to, make a comparison. Honestly, for me, that one is like easier. You just have to literally like write everything you see on that chart, and it's not that much words. I think it's 150. It's not a lot. You can easily, in the 20 minutes, you can easily do that. Second task, I think it's usually an easy topic. They don't want to confuse you with the question or like make you not being able to answer at all, because they actually are not like questioning you. They just want your opinion and they want to see how you can give some type of, like pros and cons, like have a debate. That's what I wanted to say. The other two girls that were taking the exam on the same day as I was, they had, I think one of them had what are the pros and cons on having a car, so that's pretty easy. And the other one had actors nowadays are getting jobs because they are like popular, good looking, or because they are actually a good actor. So that's what she had. So as you can see, the topics are basic, but that's why you need to know those connecting and comparison words to make it not basic and get as many points as you can. So I think that's the part where you can easily get a higher score, so your overall score can be also higher, because there is a lot of things when it comes to writing that you can like prepare and check and also remember, because you have time, especially for the task 2. They recommend you to have 40 minutes, so you really have time to put those words. And then for speaking, I think speaking, it can be the easiest, but it can also like stress you a lot. But the thing that I would say is just talk, like not nonsense, but like talk. Don't hesitate too much, don't stop talking. Just like it's better for the examiner to stop you if you're like continue to, because you, by answering first few questions, you have like 45 seconds to answer something. Only that one part you have 2 minutes to answer, but everything else it's pretty short. Like the questions they ask you, you could have like an ongoing conversation, but they like these 45 seconds go like this. At least it was for me. So just try and like talk, don't stop, in a sense. Like, but be aware of when he starts like okay, then that means you need to slow down. But otherwise, talk. So in this way, if you're talking, you are showing them that you are like not struggling for words, that speaking English comes naturally to you, even like thinking on English and coming up with something on the spot, because they ask you and you're like, okay, I need to switch and I need to answer this. So that's like good for them to know that you can have a normal conversation on English. If by some it happens that you got a little bit nervous or there was some like connection, you can always ask them to repeat the question for you. That's okay. They won't give you any negative points unless it's like every question you're like, can you repeat? Then of course it will become annoying for them. But otherwise, if you do it once or twice, it's okay. Especially if there might be a little like one question that kind of got you out of your focus or anything and you need a second longer to think about an answer, then of course you can be like, can you repeat this question? But in your head, you're like, okay, wait, let me see what I can answer actually. I think from the questions they were asking me, they're like everyday questions. It's not really something that you can be wrong, like the answer can be correct or wrong, and they will be like, oh no, this is not. So there is no questions like that. First few questions were all like about me, like where am I living, do I see myself living in here, is there anything fun in Zagreb? So it mostly, the first few questions will be about you, and then the other ones are more like honestly also kind of connected to you and your experience. But some other ones that he asked me were like, do I think that people now appreciate more like instant gratification, which for a second was like, but as I said, just like answer whatever comes to your mind. There is not wrong or correct answer. So those type of questions, like just like something that you would have maybe an opinion on, but nothing really like hard that you could not answer or that you should either stop talking or hesitate or struggle. So as I keep saying, just talk. Don't give short answers. If he, for example, if he asked me if is Zagreb fun and I said no, and that's it, like don't do that. Give explanations, always say more stuff. One thing that I also didn't do, which I should have, is to Google or like find whatever some high level like English words or words sentence starters. For example, I tend to, I'm not really a fan of, I find it challenging to. So some of the things that I know this can be a bit more unnatural than using those words or sentences in writing. That's why I said I think writing can be an easier option to remember those words and use them, because in real life, if you're talking, that can sound a bit unnatural, so don't overdo it. They also say like they can spot and they are prepared for people who literally like practice their speech. So don't do that, like don't use too many of them, but like I tend to is passable. Like I'm not a really fan of, like if, for example, if he asks me like, is Zagreb fun? I'm not really a big fan of a busy city. So something like that. Then I probably said, no, Zagreb is not fun because there is not a lot of things for young people. But I should have rephrased it and maybe like used it in this way. So maybe like that, maybe try, and when you're practicing, try and say the things that come to your mind, and then try to see if there are some spots that you can exchange, or like, what do you like to do in your free time? Instead of saying I like to do, you can say I tend to go out in my garden and read books, like something that sounds a bit more posh, which I didn't do, but you have time to do. So that, speaking wise, it definitely helps if you are able to speak English. For me, it was really helpful going to the USA for 2 summers. That helped me a lot in getting comfortable in speaking English, even like improving my accent a bit, because as Balkans we have pretty like hard r, so that was always a problem for me. But yeah, being able to speak English, and I remember when I first started, like I was so insecure, so like literally jumping over my words because it was unnatural for me. But when you start, it becomes much easier. So if you have an opportunity, definitely speak either with your friends, your family, your partner. For example, me and my boyfriend speak on English, so that was helping a lot. I don't know, even like probably there is some AI person that you can talk to, or literally just by yourself. I have a friend, she was learning Spanish, and she literally said she was at home in her room, and if she was like thinking something, she was speaking out loud on Spanish. So, you can always use something and try something new, but definitely try and speak on English if you didn't have an opportunity to do so before, because getting comfortable in speaking English is really important. Like they also check the way your accent affects how other people or the examiner understands you. One like extra tip that I think it helped me from like way before it wasn't connected for me, like being, oh, this will help me with my IELTS in 10 years. But definitely starting to read books or anything like on English. For me, also listening to YouTube. I'm always either like YouTube or podcast. It's always on English. So unconsciously, your brain takes the words, soaks up everything, even like the accent or the way they speak, the way they use some sentences, the context. So that definitely helps, especially when you're like mindlessly in the room cleaning or something, just your brain soaks up those things. So I think if you have time, really, it's an easy way to learn English by just putting a YouTube on and like trying to understand. I think this is the end of the my tips for the exam. Some of the things that I would say for like day before tips, definitely try and sleep. Eating wise, honestly, I don't know, but have something to eat because the exam is long. So definitely eat something. Coffee, it can be good or it can be bad. For me, for example, I love coffee. I made myself a cup of coffee and I literally had 2 or 3 sips, and the anxiety that came, the heart beating, the jitters, it was no joke. Thankfully, I was like 1 hour earlier. So I just threw my coffee away and I was like, okay, Sandra, you need to drink water, chill, and like no coffee for you until all of this is done. So it didn't work for me. Honestly, in the morning, I didn't check, study, or do anything. My exam was like at 8 a.m. So, 9 a.m., but we had to be there at 8 a.m. So I really didn't have time. And honestly, I usually, even from high school and university, I don't think repeating before exam never worked for me. So I'm just like, no, what I know, I cannot do anything about it. I can only stress myself more, so I'm not gonna do it. And yeah, have water. Definitely have water with yourself. You can have a bottle of water that's plastic see-through. You can have that, and as I said, arrive early and definitely don't forget your ID or passport. Focus. That's all really, because seeing from my practice exams and when I was actually focusing, concentrating and trying to be like, okay, just like do this so you know where you stand, I got 8 or 8.5. But on the times when I was like, okay, let's just go, I usually got 6.5. And then that would stress me. So, as I'm saying, focus and trust me, all of your scores will be at least 1 or 2 points better than if you are not focusing. It means a lot. And don't try to overstress yourself with like, I need 7, I need 6.5, I need 8. Like, we all know we need, but I don't think that helps. Just like be like, okay, let me do this, let's see, and let's go through it. Read paragraph by paragraph. Don't jump ahead, because that will only overwhelm you. You will get lost, you will lose time, because time. Just go paragraph by paragraph. If you are unsure on something, don't lose too much time on it. Skip, finish everything else, and then go back to it. At least for me, I had plenty of time, especially on reading, to check everything, like I said, 5 or 6 times. So read and translate everything in your head, either to your own language or however your brain works, but just like translate every sentence and its meaning. I think that's it. I've been talking, I think, definitely for the last 30 minutes. My throat is dry, my coffee is cold, but I'm hoping that this will help you, that there is something that you will find interesting and you will use on your day of the exam. And I wish you all the best luck while you are doing the exam, and hopefully you get the score that you need. If there is anything that I might have missed, or I don't know, I try to remember everything, but if there is anything that you might want to ask me more, you can ask in the comments and I will try to answer as many as I can.